Welcome to Positive Kids Podcast, dedicated to developing resilient minds, with your host, Chanel Arterbridge.
Hello, welcome to Positive Kids Podcast. This is Chanel, your host. Thank you so much for joining me once again. I have some great stuff for you guys today. I just want to share with you what I've been researching for the last couple of years and share with you what's been working. Again, what I'm using with my boys, Preston and Alex. If you haven't listened to other episodes, I am a mother of two boys, and their ages right now, they're in the school age range. I have a 5-year-old. He will be in kindergarten in September, and I have a 9-year-old, well, in about a month or so, be 9, and he will be a 4th grader. So they are my inspiration for creating positive kids. And as I research and actually digest a lot of information, I am coming on here to share it with other parents, other caregivers, educators, anyone willing to listen. Here at Positive Kids Place, we talk about toxic stress, how to build resilience in kids, and just really prepare them for overcoming adversity in adulthood so that we can try to reduce the negative health outcomes that they may be at risk for if they are exposed to toxic stress. Because according to the Adverse Childhood Experience study, this study that was done over 20 years ago, there's a relationship between being exposed to certain adversities prior to the age of 18 and your risk of negative health outcomes in adulthood. So that's where we come and grapple with that information and see how we can help our children be more positive. Okay. So the goal of this episode is going to be, how do we identify toxic stress? What kind of stress are there? Let's get into this. I'm throwing around all these different phrases here, but really, how do I see that and identify it in my child? And also, how do I determine what is a good stress, what is not? Please help me. Okay, so the reason why we're getting into this once again is because the ACE study has determined the relationship between exposure to a high dose of adversity prior to the age of 18 and the increased risk of negative health outcomes in adulthood. So we're talking about things like depression, diabetes, cancer, smoking, suicide attempts. There's so many more that are actually explained in the study. And if you head on over to positivekp.com, I do have more information on the ACE study and also how to get your score, so you can see how great risk you may have, and hopefully you don't have any. All right. But when it comes to actually identifying this toxic stress that is caused by this adversity that someone experiences in their childhood, as parents, it's very important that we kind of identify that. Okay. And that's really why I created Positive Kids, because I want parents to become aware and to become empowered. I mean, if we have this information, then we're just going to set our children on the right path and really build up some resilient kids. And I think really in this climate we're living in, social, politically, that we need it. I mean, I may be telling my age, but of course, I'm not really that young, but I know that I didn't live in an age that had constant news cycles. Okay. That came along fairly, maybe I think when I was in my adolescence or teenage years, CNN wasn't on the news cycle 24/7. Social media wasn't so prevalent as well. So our children are living in a different time than even we were, 20 years ago or so. So it's very important as parents that we become aware of these studies and public health concerns, and we become empowered with the actual information that we're given now that we have it. So that's what I'm here for. So Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, please check out her TED Talk. I bring up her name constantly because she's the one that really told me to get motivated. Not personally. She didn't reach out to me personally, but she did have a call at the end of a call to action at the end of her TED Talk that said, please, we need as a community to take up the task of building awareness about this public health concern, toxic stress in our kids and how it affects their development. She called on parents, I'm one. She called on educators. She called on other pediatricians. She called on anyone and everyone. Please get this on your radar and let's get after it. Let's go out there. It takes a village. So I'm a part of that village, and hopefully you will become part of the village as well. Okay. So when it comes to what she said in the TED Talk, it's not all dismal. There's good news. Okay. She said that the most powerful way to prevent or reverse the impact of toxic stress is actually the parent. So that was great and refreshing to hear, because you come sometimes analyzing the data of the ACE study. It makes you feel as though, oh my goodness, there's doom and gloom at the end of this, but there isn't, especially for our children. There is not. So we can, as parents, we can actually reverse and prevent toxic stress. And we're going to do that through Positive Kids and any other way that we can. We are going to set out and do that. So I just want to admit, though, we're not going to be able to shield. I know I'm not going to be able to shield my kids from stress altogether, nor do I really want to. I mean, stress is a part of life. And so you can't live your life in a bubble. And I know that my children, are going to experience some adversities and obstacles, and that's fine. But the thing is, I want them to be able to get back up. When they are knocked down, will they know to get back up? Or will they stay there? Will they just cry and sing into the floor and just, have hopelessness and overwhelming lack going on in their mood? I don't want that. And so I do know that they're going to be exposed to stress. I want to make sure they are resilient and that they'll be able to get up and overcome the obstacle that is causing the stress. So exposure to certain stressors, I know, is necessary, and it's going to make my boys the person that they are destined to become, but we're going to do that by developing their resilience. So that's my mission with raising my kids, is I want to build and nurture the resilience, the resilient mind. Okay. I don't want to coddle them. I don't want to put them in a bubble and shield them from everything. Because I'm not always going to be here, right? Eventually they will fly the nest. And so I want them to be able to fly. And if they get knocked down, that they can take off again. That's my goal. Now, when it comes to stress, there are 3 different types of stress we're going to go through. And we're going to talk about positive stress, tolerable stress, and of course, toxic stress. I always talk about the toxic stress. So positive stress, the ones that we know our kids are going to go through, and they're a part of everyday life. They're short term. And the stress has to do with your body's activation of the stress response. Okay. Your body's activation of the stress response. Okay. That will determine if that stress is positive, tolerable, or toxic. So a positive stress is short-term, normal everyday stuff. Like maybe there's a test at school they're a little nervous about, or went to the doctor and had to get a shot. So they get a little antsy about that and overwhelmed. Maybe it's starting a new school. My son, he plays guitar, and he was preparing for his first playing in front of the school at an assembly. And of course, that brought on some anxiety and stress. But that's natural, because that's going to be short term. And once the event passes, their bodies go back to normal again. So, my Preston, for some reason, I don't know if anyone else can relate, but he is 5 years old and is a very picky eater. I don't know when I'm going to get out of this phase with him. Alex was a picky eater till about 5, I will say, maybe 4 or 5. But Preston is holding on. So we have some stress whenever I have to tell him there's no more Eggo cinnamon toast. We have some breakdowns there. He freaks out a little bit, but it's over after 2 minutes. And I tell him there's no more Eggos today. We'll have to go to the store and get some more. All right. But it's a short-term stress that he actually gets over. So that's something that is positive. It's a positive stress. Now, going on to a negative stress, not a negative stress, tolerable stress, that is usually caused by, let's say, a child has an injury. Maybe they broke their leg. Maybe you were in a car accident. Could be you lost a loved one, maybe a death in the family, bullying, racism. Trying to think if they're basically this is categorized by the fact that the stress response is activated to a greater degree than, not being able to get the egg or a waffle from everyday stress. Okay. So if we were going to have a meter here, positive stress being green zone, tolerable stress in the yellow zone, toxic in the red zone, we're hanging in the yellow zone here with tolerable stress. So we are, our biology, our body's response to the stressor is elevated here. Okay. Now, this is where our role as the caregiver, as the parent, if you're a teacher out there and you're listening, as the educator, we are the buffer. We are the ones that stop that kind of a reaction from going into the red zone, from going into that toxic zone, called, and really setting that stress response, just going rogue. So we, actually, Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris talks about being buffers. So we are the buffer, okay? And basically we will, with our presence, with our, caring and nurturing and just being supportive, we can calm the child's stress response. And then from that, they're able to start gaining or building their resilience with that. So the parent, me, you, we are the ones that are going to make sure that that body stress response is not activated for too long. Okay. We're going to give the hugs. We're going to tell them that, we love them. We're really going to be consistent and just really be there for them as much as possible. And that's what I really do live this as much as I can, because I yearned for it. In another podcast, I will probably go a little bit more personal for what I went through as a child. But I know that for my kids, I not even try. I know I do talk about and every time I speak with them, I edify them, I build them up, I let them know how powerful they are, I let them know how much I love them, and that they didn't have to do anything to get that love. Okay, they just had to be. That's very, very important, that you don't have to do anything to get the love. I tell my boys all the time that when they were born, I instantly fell in love with them, instantly. And I tell them they were babies. So what could the baby possibly have done to earn my love? Nothing. So therefore, just from you being, I just instantly loved you. And that's what I want them to constantly know. I don't care what kind of grades you get. I'm not concerned if, even if I do have to scold you for something or discipline you for something, it does not take away from the fact that I love you. And so really emphasizing that against anything else, there's nothing you can do to make me stop loving you. Nothing at all. Okay. All you have to do is exist and be. So just having that kind of, just having that edified to them constantly gives them that support they need. It calms down their stress response, and it gives them a safe place to understand that it's okay to get back up. It's okay. That resilience. Now, when we talk about the stresses that are caused by physical, emotional abuse, exposure to violence, financial problems in our family, we're talking about toxic stress. Okay. And this, again, is exemplified in the ACEs study. Actually, the most common ACEs are physical abuse, emotional abuse, and divorce. Okay. And so that's when it comes to the family financial challenges, because single parenthood causes some stress in the home where the children are most likely. And that is due to the family's funds being cut in half now. And so some things may have to change in that child's life. Maybe they can no longer get the guitar lessons. Maybe they are not able to go and play the sport that they love. Or maybe there is some stress when it comes to just basic needs in the home of food has to be rationed, and maybe not able to get the fancy sneakers they want. There is an impact there, and it is long term. And so the stress response is engaged for too long. That's what makes it toxic. And so now we have these stress hormones going through the body for too long, wreaking havoc and taking away resources for other developmental milestones. And so that's why we as parents are very important here. We are the buffer, okay? And we have to really let them know that no matter what, we are there for them. We love them. We care for them, and to be safe there. All right. So what are the signs then for toxic stress? Okay. What am I looking for here? Because we do have to, when we're raising these little people and they become teenagers and so on, we have to be on alert on certain changes in their development, because they're going to go through puberty. They're going to school now. Who knows what's being said to them at school? So we have to really observe them. Okay. We're looking for, are there any mood swings? Are they, having sleep issues? Are they being extra clingy to us? My kids are in school age, so we shouldn't be talking like a baby. We shouldn't be wetting the bed too much. Watch, I'm still going through that a little bit with my 5-year-old, but that's normal. But if you have an older child now and they were not peeing the bed and now they are, that may be a sign. Also, if they are having frequent meltdowns, because they're not able to control their emotional response. So they're having frequent meltdowns. They're becoming upset and emotional quickly, even over something so trivial. Okay. Maybe they're easily embarrassed. Okay. They have new fears. These are signs and many more. And I'll try my best to share more and more that I research and uncover, and other parents may have shared with me. But I will let you know, in order to mitigate this and to resolve this, it takes our support. Okay. It takes us being caring and the trusted adult in the room and letting them know we're there. And that's really the solution to lowering the stress response, lowering the stress response. That's what we want to do here. That's our goal in dealing with toxic stress with our children. We have to have a safe, stable, nurturing place for them to go. And that's us, into our arms. We want to be approachable to them. And we want to be able to share with us in a way that they will not be, judged or disrespected for being able to share with us. I mean, that's one of the balancing acts of being a parent I'm finding with my children, is I want them to come and talk to me. I do. But also I want them to understand that if I have to discipline them or correct a behavior, that I'm still their safe place and I'm still going to love them and I'm actually going to support them. So that is something that my role is, and your role is to be there. It's really not any other. It's just unbelievable. It's that simple, but yet it can be very challenging at times. It really can. Okay. Especially for a parent, and we'll go through this in another episode, parents that are dealing with ACEs themselves, such as myself, and raising children to not have ACEs can sometimes be a challenge, because patience comes into play, having the self-control, just dealing with your own issues from having ACEs. And I keep saying ACEs, but please understand that is adverse childhood experiences. Okay, please go to the website. You'll be able to take a short little survey, 10 questions. How many yeses you get determines what your score is. The higher the score, the greater the negative health outcome risk that you are exposed to in your adulthood. Okay, 4 or more, a score of 4 or more puts you at higher risk for some of the health issues I mentioned earlier in the podcast. So going on again to solutions. So we are definitely the powerful force, the parent, the caregiver, the educator, we are definitely the powerful source, but we also need to be equipped with the toolkit. Okay. And I do have, when you do want to go on the website, please go there, join our email list. I have right now just a free toxic stress toolkit available for you to download with the 6 protective factors of helping the stress response. Okay. So there's only 6 of them, fairly easy to understand. And even though we may not be able to implement all of them every day, but they are our goal. Okay. So we want to make sure our children get adequate sleep. Okay. I've included in that cheat sheet based on the age of the child, what are the recommended hours of sleep? Also, good nutrition. Want to make sure that our children are getting the most colorful diet they can get. Okay, that would be the rule of thumb. Most colorful diet. Exercise, at least 20 minutes a day. Mindfulness, practicing that. That's where the positive affirmations come from. With Positive Kids, there's an ebook available on how to unleash your kids' superpower by teaching them how to use positive affirmation. So mindfulness is great. Some people underrated, but it's very impactful. I've seen it with my 2 boys. We want to make sure mental health support is available if needed. And don't be shamed for that. Mental health support is something that is there to complement our relationship with our children. Actually, that safe and nurturing and stable relationship or presence that we have in our kids or with our kids, it means going and getting all the resources necessary to help them deal in their stress response. If it means getting a counselor, therapist, so be it. Okay. I'm going to do everything I can to help you. That's my motto with my children. I told my children, now they're getting older, I told them when they were born, I flipped them over and I looked for instructions. I said, you came out my belly. I flipped you over. I lift your leg up. I lifted up under your underarm, looking for instructions. There were none. And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And my kids, when I tell them that, even now, it's so cute. They're like, oh my God, Mom, yeah, no instructions. Yeah, I know. I didn't come with any instructions. So I tell them that I'm very honest with that. I say it in a playful way, but I let them know that even though they didn't come with instructions, my goal is to make sure that they are safe and that I let them know I support them and love them. And that's my goal. Okay. And I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And if it means going out and getting help with, from a therapist or counselor, I don't mind. If you're religious, going to your bishop, your pastor, what does it matter? Going to another parent, going to the counselor at school. I'm going to try to make sure you have the mental health support that you need if I'm not able to turn your stress response off. Okay. And of course, we want to have healthy relationships. We want to make sure one of the protective factors for toxic stress is healthy relationships, and that is with us. So if we're honest with ourselves and we can honestly say, I'm not able to be that positive force in my child's life, then that is a big thing to admit that. But then it also means then just ask someone else. And it's okay. And that is quite all right. Ask someone else to see if they can be that positive, stable, supportive bond with your child, because they just need a safe place. That's all they need. And it may not come in the form of mother and father. It may come in the form of a teacher, someone at your church, maybe another child's parents. Okay. But we need to make sure they have these 6 protective factors in place so that they can lower their stress response. And then they will be right on track to, having a healthy adult lives. Okay. Because we don't want to compromise their brain development. We don't want to compromise their immune system. And that does bring me to another point, going back to signs for toxic stress. If your child is having frequent illnesses, always getting sick with colds and respiratory infections and ear infections. That's also signs of toxic stress. And so that is something we need to just look at with our children so that we can be the best advocate for them. Okay. So I really appreciate you stopping by, listening to me. I hope that it was impactful for you just as much as it was impactful for me when I was studying these findings. And I just want to continue bringing value to you through this podcast. Please rate, subscribe to our email list, and take that ACE survey. It's only 2 minutes. You don't have to go over it with a doctor or anything. You just actually answer the questions with a yes or no, add up your yeses, and you will see what your ACE score is. Okay? My ACE score is 4. I'm not ashamed of that at all. I'm actually empowered by that, knowing that. And so I can make sure I try to, even as an adult, make sure I get adequate sleep, good nutrition, exercise. Well, the nutrition part, really not, not working on that too hard. And the exercise, not, but I'm a work in progress. But I'm still feeling empowered and know what I have to do. But mental health care, I was in therapy for years. Not ashamed at all to admit that, or if I gotta call her up again, I will. And healthy relationships, I do reach out to other mothers who are going through the same child development years that I am. My husband is a great healthy relationship. So definitely check out the ACE quiz and comment. Let me know what's going on and subscribe, and I will let you know when we have our next podcast. So thank you again for joining me. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Positive Kids Podcast. For more information, visit our website at www.positivekp.com.